Welcome to Win Over Depression. I am your host, Tamara Trotter. Today, we'll be talking about how we keep going even when we don't want to. As simple as being happy may seem, an unhealthy mind tries to convince you that trouble is just around the corner. As simple as hanging out with friends may seem, depression will likely be waiting for you once you get home. As simple as thinking positively may seem, the dark place will remind you of your sickness. Every single day, fighting to look on the brighter side, believing things must get better, you're often reminded that your illness is a disease with no cure. And even though there is no cure, there are some things that we can do to help us feel better. Have there been people who have said that they have been absolutely cured of depression? Yes, but I don't want you to expect that there will be a time when you will never feel down, because as life presents itself to us, there are always circumstances, situations, and events in our lives that can cause us to suffer from situational depression. So we must be mindful of that. So even though depression can get the best of you at times, you must continue to fight. Allow the ups and downs to be your biggest testimony about how you overcame your circumstances. I know I say this a lot, but there are people waiting for your breakthrough so that you can help to pull them out of their despair. You may not feel like a winner, but every single day you survive and wake up to another day, to take another breath, to be able to go about your day. You are facing depression head on, and you are fighting to take your life back. Never underestimate the smallest change that you are making in your life, because it will add up. I want you to not be so hard on yourself, because it will take time, consistency, discipline, and the true ability in our mind to say, I know I can feel better. I know I can get there. I just can't give up. Our mind and how we think is the most important part of getting past symptoms of depression, because our mind tells us that we're either feeling a certain way, it presents doom and gloom, and we are what we think. If we think success will never come our way, it will stay just around the corner. If we think low of ourselves, we will definitely diminish the highs. If we wonder why wonderful opportunities seem to pass us by, we will always be looking the other way when they come. Therefore, bank on success, search around every corner, raise your own self-esteem, knowing that you are enough, you are valuable, and your life is worth living. Seek out every opportunity, because perseverance is 98% of success. We have to retrain our mind to the fact that we're no longer going to let our mental illness define us. Because every time we are faced with a perceived setback, whether we're fired from a job, we have failing health, we receive sad news or disappointment, we are actually being prepared for a major breakthrough in our lives, because all of these circumstances are common life experiences that shape who we are. And oftentimes, they catapult us to the next level in life, the next step on our journey, and the next rung on the ladder of success. We are being set up for success, aligned to overcome, and seasoned to shine. The sweetest comeback of all time has been placed in your forecast, and it is headed your way and destined to appear. But we must remain steadfast, true to our purpose, and relentless in our quest to get to a better place. Recently, I experienced symptoms of depression during a time when I had to be present and actually work. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to overcome it. And it reminded me of the fact that when you suffer from depression, we put on a mask a lot of times, and people have absolutely no idea how we are feeling on the inside. And when I experienced that, I was thinking as I was watching the room and listening to others speak, on the inside of me, I was thinking, wow, I really wish I could just get up and walk out the door, drive home, and get in my bed. And I knew that I could not do that, but I said to myself, this is probably how people feel, and they don't have developed coping mechanisms, so they probably do just get up and leave and go home. Or some may not even get out of the bed. So I was trying to figure out, what if these people knew how I was really feeling? They probably would be compassionate toward me. They'd probably be concerned, and they'd try to help. However, the timing was just completely off. There was no way that I could pause and let people know that I was feeling down. And so I imagine that that's what happens, is there's really no opportunity to share it. But I also would say that people would not be willing to share it because they don't know how people would feel. And therefore, that is why depression remains a silent disease. So how did I push myself to keep going even though I didn't want to or didn't feel like it? Well, I had to think about the commitment that I made to being there. I had to realize that people were counting on me. They were counting on my input. They were counting on me to share my expertise. And therefore, I had to push myself to bring my best, even though I wasn't feeling my best. And unfortunately, that's what we have to do a lot of times, is bring our best when we're not feeling our best. But I will say that those times are far and in between for me, and they don't come that often. But when they do come, it's really a painful experience. And so later on, I did start to feel better, but it was very difficult just going through the motions and the emotions of it all, knowing that I would eventually be in a time and space where I would need to reevaluate what happened and figure out what I might be able to do differently. But that's how mental illness presents itself. It is unpredictable, and you just really can never know when you're going to feel a certain way, and you don't have a whole lot of control over it. And so I imagine for people who are used to having control in their lives, it is very difficult to deal with. So I do want to share an affirmation with you, something that you can ponder and remember when you're going through those difficult times. You are not finished.
On the latest episode of No Wrong Choices, a podcast that explores the career journeys of inspiring people, we speak with retired NFL player Curtis Conway, who married into an incredible family.
We would be remiss if we did not ask you about your father-in-law, the great Muhammad Ali. Do you remember the first time you met him?
You know, just thinking back on it, I get emotional because growing up without a father, to say that the first man that was even close to being the word father was Muhammad Ali, my father-in-law. I think about that like, wow, was this how it was supposed to be?
To hear more about Curtis's amazing journey from South Central LA to today, look for No Wrong Choices wherever you get your podcasts or visit nowrongchoices.com.
I am not finished. I am incomplete. I am under construction. I know there are more life lessons and challenges to face. I am ready to put forth the effort necessary to achieve my goals. I can only change my circumstances when I change my mindset and make better choices in my life. I am willing to work toward the end result that I am expecting. And you will find this affirmation in the show notes, and that'll give you the ability to write it down. I often look for ways to help people better understand what it is like living with a mental illness. And so another way to explain it is that you feel like you're between a rock and a hard place. And that is a very dreadful spot to be in, because it feels as though there is no way out, and all of the ideas you have to turn things around are just not working. But life itself is not a walk in the park, but just imagine how suffering with a mental illness totally compounds that. There are so many trials and tribulations that seem to permeate our existence, but there are also variables that serve to impact our decision-making process and also shape our thoughts and sometimes our moods. But I have learned from personal experience how very important it is to pick and choose the battles worth fighting in our life. The fact that you may choose not to respond to a certain battle does not mean you are weak or afraid to stand up for yourself, because those who suffer with the mental illness must guard their heart and realize that the impact of you dealing with the battle is going to be different than someone who doesn't suffer from a mental illness, because it could cause you a complete spiral downward, and it could catapult you into a depressive episode that could last for months. And that's why you have to be very decisive. It means that you have come to a point in your life when you are mature enough to recognize that it may be better to sit back and observe before making a decision or not taking action at all, because it is imperative that we listen to our inner voice that is trying to convince us to walk down the right path. But how many times has our voice told us that we need to fight back? We need to say something. We need to stand up. And yes, my friend, sometimes we do, but we have to be decisive about when that is, because we often place ourselves in impossible situations that are lose-lose for everyone involved. To begin to make our way out of that hard place, we must be willing to take action and make some hard decisions. But that decision might be to not act at all and to just relax and observe and think it through. To begin to make our way out of that hard place, we need to stand behind our decision once it's made and allow the chips to fall where they may. And I know that that's difficult, but that is why being mindful about who we allow in our ear gate, who we allow in our circle of influence is very important as we navigate life, because there are some people who are only meant to be in our lives for a season. And when their season is up, we have to be willing to let them go. Not that you won't love them or care about them, but that you will love them from a distance. And that may help you to experience or get to the biggest breakthrough of your life. And that is what we are striving to reach, the biggest breakthrough of our life. Now, we know that it's widely known that change is difficult and it's often unwelcome because we want to stay in a place of familiarity and we want to keep the status quo, so to speak, and not make big changes or decisions. However, it's the decision that we make that could be just what we need to get to that success around the corner. But there is so much uncertainty and self-doubt that we have inside of us that keeps us from moving outside of our comfort zone where we know it to be safe and secure. And that just comes naturally. But the problem comes into play when we become complacent, and the moment that things start to look a little better, we revert back to our conditioned ways. So we have to be willing to do something differently. So what are you willing to do differently in order to improve your outcome? What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to give up? What steps are you willing to take to get you to that next level? Because self-care plays a huge role in overcoming your mental illness. It's one of the most important areas to maintain, especially when you are feeling depressed. It is a true statement that when you look good, you feel better. Because if you stay in bed with the curtains drawn, allow no sunshine to come in, you are bound to stay in a sullen mood. If you stay in your pajamas, don't comb your hair or take a shower, you will not be inclined to go outside or engage in any activity. You must have a game plan that causes you to be ready to meet the day at a reasonable time. You must purposely plan time with friends and know that when the dark moments come and a depression episode begins to surface, you have to have a plan of how you're going to suppress the feeling. Because you must take proactive measures to defeat depression and cut the sadness off at its knees. Implement a self-care plan and let your depression defeating buddy or your accountability partner know what your plan is. Because you can overcome the debilitating feelings by being purposeful in your actions and consistent in your quest to keep your depression at bay. You are not your depression nor your mental illness, but you are fighting every single day to not allow depression to overcome you. If you continue your life the way it is now and you are dissatisfied, how can you ever become satisfied? You have to change your ways, your habits, and your circumstances. You may even need to say more no, let go of something or someone that's holding you back, and you may need to grow up and take charge of your life. That's just real talk, because we are talking about how do we keep going when we just don't want to? Because we know that our mind is splintered, and it's plagued most days with us having to rise to the occasion. And it's difficult, but if you continue to do the same thing over and over again, but you expect the outcome to be different, you are kidding yourself. Because even though we have no choice but to rise to the occasion, it still has to be a decision that we have made. So consider someone who suffers from depression having to find a reason to keep going. And your reason does not have to be a reason of your own, that you're doing it for yourself. Because sometimes you don't want to do it for yourself, but do it for other people. Keep going for other people. Keep trying, keep learning, keep moving forward, keep attacking your depression head on, because other people want to see you around. Other people want to see you healthy and strong. Do it for them. And I know that I push you a lot during these episodes to keep going and to push yourself. And I know that sometimes you probably feel like it's all on you. And that really is my overall message, because it is up to each individual to take charge of managing their mental health condition. And so until we realize that it's up to us, we're never going to really get as far as we can. We have to be able to depend on ourselves, because it's our life. It's our journey. And a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step forward. And I know you may say, well, I am taking one step forward, but the next day I feel like I'm taking 2 or 3 steps backward. Unfortunately, that is the reality of living with a mental illness, but you have to keep stepping forward and moving forward, because we cannot afford to stop or give up. We cannot afford to fall back into the quicksand of despair. So what is your homework for today? I want you to think about 3 specific things that you want to change in your life. Write them down. Write a plan of action as to how you are going to do this particular thing differently. And in the next 7 days, I want you to practice doing something differently. Whether it's looking in the mirror and saying, you know what? I'm beautiful, I'm capable, and I'm enough. If it's just that, that's perfect. Or if you just want to say, the next time someone that I love devalues me, I am going to speak up. The next time I want to refrain from saying how I really feel, I am going to speak up, and I'm going to let the person know the impact that their words have on my emotions. I encourage you to stay in the game of life, and I never want to end my podcast without thanking all of you so very much for listening. Please share this podcast with other people who you know can benefit from the over 62 episodes of Win Over Depression. You can find us on Pinterest at TT Mental Health Expert. You can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Win Over Depression. You can also join us on Facebook at our Win Over Depression Facebook group, but you can also find us on LinkedIn, Tumblr, Twitter, and other social media platforms. What you are doing by listening to this podcast is not only helping yourself, but it's also helping us to continue bringing you this content. If you would like to support this podcast, please go to Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/Tamara Trotter. A $5 to $10 per month commitment will help me to spread this message on a larger and broader scale. Again, remember, stay in the game of life. Your life is worth living. I care about you, my friend, and I want to see you flourishing and living the best possible life ever. If this is your first time listening to Win Over Depression, I encourage you to go back and listen to our many valuable podcast episodes. I will see you next Friday, March the 17th. Stay in the game of life. Take care, my friends.